Welcome, everybody, to the Battlefront to Homefront podcast. This is part of the Mission United program, us bringing you more information about all of the things that are available for veterans and their families. And there's so much. We're going to give you as much information as we can each day. But if you want more information at any point during the show, or you know what, wait till after the show, then do this. Go to unitedwaybroward.org/Mission United. It's right there on the screen. Please go there and find out about all the good things. If you're a vet, if you know a vet, if your friend's family is a vet, has a vet, and they need help in any way, find out. Because chances are, and by the way, my co-host Sean McPhee, who is one of the people who are running this Mission United, the biggest problem we have with our vets is they don't know what's available for them, right?
That is correct. That is the biggest thing. Is like I said, as I was talking to somebody the other day, it's like, one of the common questions is like, if veterans have all these resources and all these support, why do we have so many people that are struggling? It's because they don't always have easy access to the information when they're exiting it, and like anything else, I mean, command career counselors who help educate the military members who are leaving service, they're not all great. They all try to do their best, and there's no terrible or super bad one, but they do what they can. I was lucky. I was at a desk job. I was stateside, so it made my transition much easier. But if you got someone who's forward deployed or, stationed in another country, their exit process is more compressed and they don't get that information. And that's the biggest issue when it comes is you don't know what you don't know unless you ask or somebody tells you, because I can tell you, I meet so many vets that I share information every single day that they're shocked they didn't know these things were available to them until I pointed it out to them. Even I don't know everything. I'm constantly studying manuals, upcoming changes to laws and policies that are constantly moving and changing, so I can stay ahead. So when somebody asks me a question, I don't always know the answer, but I will tell them that I will look it up and I will track it down and I will give you the answer. But there's so much stuff that's moving and going. It's not always hard to stay ahead of it, but I try to do my best.
Well, I know you're a vet, and I thank you for your service. We all do. Appreciate you. I have to ask you, when you join the military, Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, whatever it might be, you join the military, you sign up, and then you have training. Yeah. You have education. You have basic training, and you in combat training, and this training and that training. What is a basic length of that training?
Well,
it's just a general idea.
A standard basic training, regardless, depending on, some of them are a little longer now, but over average, if I remember correctly, I remember doing about 8 to 10 weeks of training, and that encompassed of learning military regulations, right? Learning basic mottos. There's some of them is your standard commands, it's like standard rules.
But then if you want to go into something specific, there's more training on top of that for any specific,
some
MOS,
schools
right?
So some schools are longer than others, depending on, if you're going to go into the nuclear field, that's going to be a very long school. If you're going to be in the IT field, where if you're going to be, in something, generalized admin or whatever, that school doesn't require as much as length of time. So that school can bring for a couple months, or it could be a year and a half. It depends.
So I'm just trying to get to the minimum is 2 months, 2.5 months minimum. And then if you're going to go into it could be anywhere from that, from the 2.5 months all the way up to a year, depending on what you're doing.
Doing what your field is.
Now, what is the average for a person leaving combat and coming back stateside, the time that is spent training them to survive stateside or to discharge? What is the average amount of time spent on that? Be honest.
A week.
1 week. So we will spend months training and a week getting them prepared for life on the outside.
Yeah.
Is that one of the problems right there?
Yes. I mean, they do, it used to be is they would offer the transition class used to be about 3 weeks. I remember that when I first joined, some of the veterans military members that were leaving, it was an option. You could request to go to transition class for a couple of weeks, and they would try to do their best to educate. By the time I got out in 2018, it was 5 days. It was 3 days of Department of Labor trying to tell you how to get a job and 2 days of benefits.
Wow. So all after all this, you might have served for years and years and years.
Hmm.
You had all that training to get in. You've been trained and continue to train while you're in, and you got all of this.
Hmm.
And now you're going to transition out, and beyond the regular paperwork, you might get 2 days where they talk about these are all the things that you can get.
Yeah.
How are people supposed to remember any of that or even comprehend it when maybe they're coming out of a combat? Maybe they've got some, if they don't have any, I'm not saying everybody gets PTSD, but there could be.
Yeah.
There could also simply be just such apprehension and such a change. There's no way you're going to learn anything. No. You probably walk out of there not remember a damn thing that was said to you.
I can tell you that because I was lucky enough to be on a desk job. When I went to my transition class, now, lucky enough for me, I was filling in as a command career counselor, so I was well aware of a lot of the benefits and entitlements. But there was the one I was at, there was an Air Force guy. This was like his 4th time attending this week class because there's so much of it in 1 week that he keeps coming back because he keeps missing stuff. So he's constantly taking notes. He said, yeah, this is like my 4th time coming here because he had the opportunity. Now, in 2011, November, President Obama signed into this VOW Act, VOW, Veterans Opportunity. Forgive me, it's a little while since the Veterans Opportunity to Work program. Part of that program was that he changed the rules that when somebody's leaving military, they have to go through a rigorous checklist. You're supposed to be given 12 months from the time that you're decided that you're going to get out, retire, separate, or whatever. Now, if you're getting out on medical or other reasons, the time frame is a little shorter. But it's not like anybody handholds you. Whoever's in charge of this process hands you a checklist and says you have to go through this checklist. And if you don't complete all this checklist, then we have to sign off on it that you didn't collect. And then you got to go over to the VA to finish this checklist. And oh, by the way, if you don't complete this checklist, you only get part of your benefits until you complete this checklist. So not only you got 12 months, not only because you're trying to process out, you're trying to do your job, depending on where you're stationed, you got to attend this transition class and all this stuff going on in a 12-month period. And you got this, and if you can't get it done, they're like, okay, now you got to go see the VA. Then you got to duke it out with the VA. And if anybody's ever tried to get an appointment with a VA, like I sent in for an eye exam 6 months out. I mean, and if I miss that exam for whatever reason, or I asked to reschedule, it could be another 6 months before I get another appointment. So you think about that after they're under pressure to get this checklist done.
So you're driving blind for 6 months,
Yeah.
But that's crazy. That's a lot.
It is. It's crazy. And then you expect them to know all these things. And now, if you had a good command career counselor, now, like I said, I was lucky enough being a desk job, I was able to put a presentation together that once a month I would hold what they call a career counselor's, corner. And I would sit down and I would talk to them about what is it that you know and how it actually works. Because a lot of people are like, hey, yeah, I heard I could do this. That's not exactly how it works. Like, we'll take your instance. Not every veteran can go to the VA to receive services. You can receive free services at the VA for service-connected disabilities. But if you go to the VA for something that's not related to your service-connected disability, you have a copay. You have to have insurance for that. But veterans don't know that. They think that just because I show up to a VA, you can't just show up to any VA. You have to register with your VA just to be processed before you can actually go in.
So if you go home and you're home for a couple of months and you fall off the ladder painting the house and break your ankle, you're not going to the VA to get treated for that.
No.
Unless
now, even if you are registered now, like here in South Florida, there's only 2 VA hospitals. One's in Palm Beach, one's in Miami.
Yeah.
We have
I've been lost in the one in Palm Beach before.
We have a clinic in Sunrise in Broward County. They're just a clinic. They only have so much capability they can do. But if you need anything major, you either go to these 2 hospitals. But they did have recently, the last couple of years, the VA did loosen their grip on it. That if, kind of example, I had a kidney stone issue. I went to an emergency room. The VA covered it because it was at a time of night that neither hospitals were available. It was too far for me to drive. So I basically called the nurse's hotline, got approval. I went to the ER.
Right.
But there's so much wealth of information and resources. Unless you do your homework or somebody shares it with you, they only share the bare minimum with you when you're transitioning out. Even when you go through the checklist, they're like, hey, did they tell you about all your benefits? I think so.
And that's a huge part of what Mission United does.
Yeah.
Is certainly you supply direct services.
Direct service.
But probably even bigger than that is you let them know what else is out there.
Yes.
And that's kind of part of your mission, right?
Yeah, we constantly are educating veterans and their families, community partners, anybody we meet, to let them know that if you actually went on the VA website and look at all the stuff that they cover, it would take you quite a while to go through it. There's even books and pamphlets. The Florida Department of Veterans, every state has a Veterans Affair, whether Texas, whatever, had their own independent group.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information to dig through. So sometimes they miss the stuff that they're entitled to. They're not aware that these things are available to them, and they've been doing it. There's a reimbursement program. I can't tell you number of vets I've told. It doesn't matter whether you travel 5 miles, you travel 2 hours, whatever. If you're traveling anywhere for a VA appointment, you can ask for reimbursement for travel. But a lot of vets are not aware of that.
Wow. So there's so much to go through. Even if you were able to get on to look through all of the stuff on the VA site, it's not always easy to understand the restrictions and the things like that. So calling you guys is a really good idea, because you guys you'll do the research and help do all of that. I want to ask one more thing before we move on to, because we got a lot to talk about in a short period of time. I hope you guys were enjoying this, and always remember UnitedWayBroward.org/Mission United. All the information you need is there. Contact information. Pass this on and share this program with people who are vets. When somebody leaves service, and I don't know how this works, you're getting paid while you're in the service.
Yes.
Now, obviously, if you go career, you get a pension and you get all this other stuff. You get benefits. But somebody does like average of, which is probably the average for most people, is like a 6-year run. Or
it's more of a 4-year.
4-year. You get out after that. Is that it? You just longer paid? There's I mean, you leave some companies and they give you like
a severance or whatever.
Severance of some kind just to help you get on your feet.
Nope.
So if people aren't prepared for this.
Correct.
Is this something you see a lot?
A lot.
Like the money's always been there. They hadn't had to think about it because the service takes care of everything.
Yep.
Now they're out. No more money's coming in. Maybe they mismanaged. Maybe they just didn't think about real world situations. Some of these guys go in at 18 years old. Maybe they're coming out in their late 20s. And it's like, when I was 18, I lived in my parents' basement. Now what?
A lot of them, this is their first real job.
Yeah.
This is the first time they're away from home. And, not all military members get married while they're in. They do a 4-year contract, and then at the end, they think just because, they're now a veteran, people are standing in line to hire them. It's not how it works.
First of all, you've joined the service. Why would you get married and now you got somebody else telling you what to do? That's enough. Don't do that. Don't do that.
But there are not all vets, but quite a lot of them that I've met over my career that they're getting out think that just because now they have the service underneath their belt, they're going to automatically get a job. It doesn't work that way.
No, I mean, there are some good companies out there that do well. Starbucks is really good at hiring vets. And
there's quite a few companies.
There's a lot of good places, but you're right. It's like you can't get out and decompress.
Yeah.
Some people, maybe they had a really hard time, even if they didn't see battle, they just had a hard time in the military. They need to just kind of recreate themselves and need a little time. But without money, you don't get that time.
Yeah, because I've met vets that got out and took like 6 months off before they went back to work. They don't, and I try to get them, like, I understand where you're coming from, but that's 6 months that have no job skills. You're not working. So when you go to work for an employer, they're like, what have you been going for the last 6 months? Where you been? Why aren't you working?
Yeah.
And now there was a little change back in 2018. They made it mandatory. They have this, what they call thrift saving plan. It kind of mirrors the 401 type plan, where that they take part of your paycheck, they put it in. So even if you do 4 years, but the thing about it is you can't collect on that until you retire. So you're putting in money for your savings. But again, when you leave service, they stop paying you. There's no severance pay. Now, if you have a disability, even if you file for a disability claim, say they broke my thumb and they're going to give me compensation for that. If you're not smart ahead and plan the paperwork ahead of time, it could be a year before you see that amount of money for that. And to be honest, it's no whole heck of a lot. It depends on the number of years you service and what pay grade you got out of it. it's not a whole lot of money sometimes. It's
No.
depending on.
No, I mean, quite honestly, I don't even know what the pay scale is in the military, whether it's reasonable or not reasonable. All I know is that whatever you get, you deserve more because of what you guys do, and we appreciate it.
Yeah.
But, and I love to hear this savings plan.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to make sure when you leave here, you're not leaving here. You've got a nest egg built up, no
Yes.
matter whatever it might be. But again, now it comes to the time when it's like, okay, I left. I thought I was going to be okay. Now I didn't get a job. I lost my apartment. I need help. You're the people you go to.
No.
But there's also other things that happen when people get out of the service. Sometimes the readjustment to society or different things can be hard, and they may find themselves getting into trouble.
Yeah.
The way you used to drive when you were in the military is not the way you're supposed to drive when you,
No.
Those kind of things. And people find themselves in legal trouble. Is that something you guys can help with?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Because some of those issues are people think that veterans have anger issues. That's why sometimes some veterans are a little hesitant about hiring, but it's because when you're in the service, I'm in charge. I'm used to telling people what to do, and they don't question what I do.
Yeah.
And then that starts trouble for them on the outside. Whether it be an authority figure, law enforcement, whatever, sometimes vets react differently from people telling them what to do when they're used to being in charge, telling other people to do, and say, well, no, you do what I tell you to do. And then it becomes ugly and,
Yeah.
Well, we have a legal service. We have a connection with here in Broward County is Legal Aid, and they are nationwide, but they are a group of individuals to provide legal advice to individuals, particularly veterans for us, how to navigate whatever issues they're in trouble with. So we're well connected because my boss, being a lawyer, has a well connection here in Broward County. So we have a large connections to lawyers who hopefully we're trying to work with them is to make sure that if legal aid cannot provide them assistance, if they refer them to a lawyer, either pro bono or, nothing, or can we help them out? Can we cover the cost of the lawyer to help them depending on what the situation is?
Right. It's not always guaranteed it's going to be a free service.
No.
But there are always ways to get it either reduced greatly or to do something like that. And I know legal aid is great, but if they can't help you with something, a lot of people don't understand it, that people who are in the business that are lawyers and stuff, they are required to do a certain amount of pro bono work.
Yep.
And especially in the firms and things like that, they have to do a certain amount. And that's the kind of thing that you guys tap into and say,
Yes.
listen, when you're doing pro bono, let's work with the vets and let's help them.
Yeah, because we're not only connected with the lawyers, we're connected with the court as well. There's quite a few. There's quite. Now, I don't know about some of the others, but I know Miami, I know Broward County have what they call a veterans court, where a veteran, regardless of whatever that they were charged with or whatever criminal act, can request that be held in front of the veteran court. People are like, well, what's the difference from a regular court? Well, there's a lot of support system. Like we send individuals like on Monday morning at Broward County's courthouse on the 6th floor, we have veterans court. I believe it started about 1:00. We send not only us, but we send representative from community support for the vets. So the veteran feels that they have a backing. They have a veteran lawyer, they have a veteran support group, they have a judge who's very sympathetic to veterans. So it makes things much easier. They're less stressed, less defensive about how can we help them either reduce, remove the whatever it is to overcome. Like, hey, listen, we understand that. Let us, if you give them probation, let us help them overcome this, and then we'll revisit this and X on them. So that's what the whole thing is about, is providing that support to veterans that when they walk into court, they're like, these people don't understand what I'm going through. Where in a vet court, there's so many veterans that are present that they feel that, hey, listen, they understand, they can hear the lingo, we can talk, we get it.
That makes a lot of sense because, if you got a bunch of people sitting around that don't understand what vets go through, they're just going to look at it. And like you said, they make the assumption, oh, you're just angry. No, but for the last 6 years, either somebody's been barking orders at me or I've been barking orders at somebody else. And it's going to take some time for me to change that attitude. Doesn't mean I'm angry. It just means that's what I've been trained to do. So, and to have people, and you also, like you said, you got representatives in court. so that when you see somebody, you could say, oh, there's a person who could use some of our help.
Correct.
And that's really people. I bet you people standing there in court don't even think I don't even need help from anybody. It turns out you can be of great benefit to them.
Oh, definitely. And also too is a BSer can't BS another BS.
Yes.
You know, so they know that when they go in there, they have to be, because hey, tell me a story. Yeah. Okay. Tell me the real story.
Yeah,
you know, but veterans tend to be more open toward other vets than versus, trying to skirt the, all that. Listen, let's talk about it this head on. You can't, because I know what you're going through. I've seen it a million times. I've been where you've been. It's like the same thing. Somebody who's been the best people that work in recovery centers are people who've been there themselves, because they know how to relate. It's the same thing for vets. You can't BS us. We've been in your shoes. We know what you've been through. We've been in those situations. Let us help you through this and make your life better and get you back on track.
Now, obviously, working with first responders and vets with one brother, one sister, we've seen a lot of this. And, and as much as I appreciate the vets and my grandfather, my son, my brother, all served. And as much as I appreciate them and appreciate our first responders, I've never walked in their shoes. So sometimes them talking to me, I'm what normal people do, which is, oh, tell me the story of that battle. And whereas the vets, I'll watch them with each other and they're like, well, tell me what happened to you. Don't tell me the big story. Tell me what happened to you.
Yeah.
And because they don't need all of that. They don't want all that. We see that a lot with therapists who work with vets. Yeah. If they don't have a background, they might get wrapped up in the story and not in what's happening with the individual. Do you see that sometimes?
Oh, yeah. Even when I'm with other vets, when we talk, it's a different type of communications. We're like, because we've been there, we're like, because you can't exaggerate with another vet, because we know, but kind of like the big fish story. But we talk right to the point, like, what did you do? What happened? What did you see? And we can relate to those things, because whether we've actually been there, but we've maybe seen those actions with other people as well. So, that's where those storylines go. So,
and people are always thought it's like getting shot at is the one thing that you just kind of freak out about. It's like, no, a lot of the times the freak out is when you just approach a corner and you don't know what's around there. And just going around that corner, you don't need a bullet to fly to have your heart race and your mind jump somewhere, right?
Oh, yeah. There's, depending on who. I served with, early in my career, I served with a vet who served on the USS Stark, which is a small frigate, was in the Gulf during that particular time frame. And they were one of the first, I'm not sure if they're one of the first, I don't want to say that. They actually kind of got on the, like, nobody's going to attack us kind of mentality.
Yeah.
And, human error, things went wrong, and a plane fired 2 missiles at them. One punched all the way through the ship and the other one landed in a berthing unit. One of the guys that I served with was, because he was brand new on board the ship, they felt that him being part of the group to retrieve the sailors that had died in that berthing unit would pose a less impact, because he didn't know them. When I got it, he couldn't sleep in any of he had to sleep on a couch or a chair, because after watching, because we sleep in 3 bunks high, they collapse. He couldn't sleep in one. Claustrophobic, the whole thing.
Wow.
So he couldn't work in tight spaces. Even though bullets weren't flying him, he was in a situation where he saw that. Those are guys that were on the DDG in Yemen when that got happened. A lot of those guys, even though they weren't actually at that impact point, it still affected them. It affected a lot of us to watch that happen. And, even though we weren't there. So it's a psyche thing, because every time you go out, it's like, is that going to be me?
Right. And not everybody that you work with Mission United have had those issues. No. As a matter of fact, it's a smaller group than most people think. The people who come back with mental issues and stuff. There's a lot of people out there, just regular Joes. They came out, they're good, they get the best of intentions, but things just don't work out because of the money, or because of the lack of benefits, or because of this, or lack of education. So you deal with a lot of just everyday people.
Oh, yeah.
Never had those issues.
Yeah, a lot of when we talk about is like, that's the stigma we're trying to change. Not only Miss United side, but United Way, as a lot of our community partners, is just because you see somebody homeless does not necessarily they're a drug addict, or it's,
Yeah.
I don't want to, in the military, we have what they call gunner's mates. What they do is they take care of all the ammo and small arms, shotguns, etc. A lot of them, hey, I want to do this, but when they get out, how does that transition? There's a lot of people who go into the military don't think about what that job and its skill sets will provide when they get on out, and it doesn't always line up what they think they are.
Right.
And some people fall, they make financial issues, or they get divorced, or they're whatever the reason is economically, and then they people do desperate things when they're desperate, and they do things that they never thought they would have to do: stealing, theft, holding people up, committing robberies, DUIs, all that stuff. I mean, just it wasn't like a mental, or it's what happened to them after, and one thing cascaded into the other, and they found themselves in trouble.
Yeah, we should never have to talk about a vet going without. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Yeah.
There's certain groups in this world, our first responders, our vets, our teachers, who we should never have to think that they're struggling, because they do. They protect us, they educate us, they guide us. There's so many great things. What is your favorite part about working with Mission United? I mean, I know we've talked about your story before. If you're not sure about a story, watch one of our previous episodes. We've told it before.
Yeah.
But is there a part of it that's just really your favorite part?
I've worked side by side with Mission United for going on about 7 years now, but I've only been with them just a little over a year. But one of the things I really enjoy about Mission United is the number one is the freedom of expression. A lot of them, my previous job, I understand, working for the state, guidelines, paperwork, bureaucrat. I work for, but I work for a community that derives on passion and creativity. Like I've already, the things that I'm doing outside my original job scope. My boss actually sat down and I asked him, could we change some of the things that were in my original job description to cover what I'm doing? And they said, I have the support of a CEO. Hey, I pitch it. That sounds great. Let's go with it. And it's a phenomenal. And then, like I said, the second half of that is we all work with that one person. You're like, why are you here? How do you still have a job? Or why do you still come to work? Every organization, even when I was in the military, there's some people I work like, how do you have this job?
Yeah.
But working for an organization like Mission United is the amount of passion. When you put us all in a room, you can feel the energy that there's not one person in a group going, why am I just, everybody's talking, everybody's involved, and like, okay, we have a situation going on. How are we going to attack this? Come on, how are we going to support this? And that's one of the things I like. There are a few people that, different points of view, we kind of bump, but I still support them no matter if they call me up and say, hey, listen, it happens all the time. Like we have an event going on where we needed people to be a recorder for the event. 2 seconds after I got the email, I volunteered. I got an email thank you for volunteering. We already have some. They needed like 8 people, but they had an overwhelming response of my coworkers going, it's not the same 5 people like you do. Like that's the conversation. It's always the same 5 people always showing up for events. That doesn't happen in our organization. As soon as there's an event, we actually end up more people. Like we have our school backpack drive right before school where we handed out 900 backpacks.
That's fantastic.
That was great. I mean, people just drove up. We said hello. We gave them stuff. We gave them sent them on their way. We had so many people we didn't know what to do with everybody. We were doubling up, and we still had people that were awaiting the wings. Always said, hey, listen, we need volunteers. We had community partners. We had civilian. We had all these people showing up. Okay, what do you need me to do? That's what I love about Mission United Way is I have yet to find anybody that doesn't have a passion about whatever they're doing for our organization.
Absolutely. And if you want to meet Sean, we're going to try to get him out to the barbecue picnic, which is on April 27th. It's at the Eric Call Pavilion in the park, which I can't remember the name of the park. But here's go to faronline.org and you'll find the information for the barbecue. That's FARR for Florida Association of Recovery Residences. It's faronline.org. Find out about the picnic on April 27th and come out and have a great time. Last question today. You know, obviously we've talked about the legal and everything else. How amazing is it to have United Way behind what you're doing? Because you're talking about one of the largest, most successful nonprofits in the history of the world. Their experience and all the things they've learned, they bring that to you and help you so that you can really focus on the mission and not so much on trying to stay, right?
Yeah, that's because, you know, in today's, you know, we're not going to get into politics, but one of the most common people are asking me lately is, you know, how are you fearful about losing funding? I'm not. I have no fear of losing funding. We don't rely highly on you know, just grants, and we have quite a few entrepreneurs who provide service, volunteers. We have a huge volunteer force that no matter what we need, but it's great having an organization like United Way. And it's not just because we're in Broward County. We belong to United Way or International. We belong to this huge group that's in different countries, different states. They're a huge supporter of this program that started here in Broward County, Florida. And I don't fear for my job because they're backing us. Whatever we need, they're there to support what we're doing. They're driving it, and they love what we're doing with the program. That matter of fact, I can't wait until our next spot opens in Okeechobee later this year. We're working with our group up there. They'll be starting a Mission United to provide direct services there shortly.
How many veterans out there need help right now?
Too many to count. We typically our goal is about 1,050 from July to June, and we're almost up to that already. We'll probably break that goal.
We're talking about just about in Broward County.
And just in Broward County. But I mean, the statistics are constantly changing the data. We have a gentleman who takes care of the data, but it can probably here in South Florida, we got roughly about 4,000 veterans and their families that are homeless or on rough times or low income and can't make ends meet. It's way too many people.
Now, without getting into it, because we're up against time, one of the groups we never talk about are the widows and the spouses that are left behind after. You know, are there? I mean, probably not all but are there some services out there for them as well?
Unfortunately, you know, that's one of the things that widows are up against is that when they're married, the veteran that they were married to or, you know, with for so long passes away or even divorces them, a lot of their benefits go away.
Yeah.
Now, the rule of thumb is that if somebody served and they were, you know, they're 20 years and you're with a partner for 10 of those years, they're entitled to half of your retirement pay. Okay. There's different points of view on that. We're not going to get into that. Some are pros, some are cons. But basically, I mean, I've seen it happen where, you know, they were married. Now, the military used to offer what they call survivor benefits, but you had to sign up for it. It's not an automatic thing.
Okay. All right.
But if you're a military member, you're going through and you're not aware of this, nobody told you that there's paperwork to fill out because a lot of them, again, assume that when they're spouses, they're automatically entitled. No, you had to sign up for it.
Wow.
And there's like, okay, so if I was to die, kind of give an example tomorrow. Now, my wife will receive half of my retirement benefits for the rest of her life. Not my disability pay that goes away. There's nobody can touch that. That's a compensation that can't be brought up.
Yeah. That's not a benefit, it's compensation. Right.
So she gets half of that for the rest of her life, but she had to sign up for it. But I did. I knew the paperwork ahead of time. But if they didn't know, but are there benefits for widow? Unfortunately, far and few. Now there are some groups out there that do support, you know, veterans, but you have to find widows, find out. But that is one of the common issues that we run into. That if it's a widow, we're like, can we provide services? Fortunately, no, we can't.
Wow,
you're not married to the military member anymore.
That's a tragedy. Actually,
it is.
You know, because if they lost their spouse, their husband, or their wife in the line of duty, And that puts a tremendous hardship on the family. There should be somebody there stepping up for that. But you know what? This is another one of those things. You put it on you put it up on the chalkboard, and you say, one day we're going to find a solution for this. But it's got to be dealt with. It doesn't seem fair that it's not. There's not some sort of compensation.
They're trying very hard. I met a lovely lady at a dog park who had told us that so I had talked to her briefly about some of the stuff. And I'm like, well, did he have survivor benefits? Like, well, I don't know. So I gave her some contact information. And the last time we ran into it, she was excited to tell us that, yeah, she found out that now he was exposed to Agent Orange, I believe she said. Forgive me if I miss it. But he was exposed to some stuff went in, and turned out that there was the benefits that were entitled to surviving widow, that now she's getting it. But gotcha. She wouldn't have never known if I hadn't provided the direct contact.
Again, it's information.
Yep.
And even if you're not sure if Mission United can help, reach out to them.
Ask them. That's
what we do. Find out. And I know what I know about Sean, just as a friend, is that if he doesn't know, he'll go find out.
Yep.
And if there is even any crack in the concrete anywhere, he'll find it for you and at least get you pointed in the right direction. So
yeah,
we appreciate that.
Oh, definitely. I mean, like I said, it's no task, no matter. It's not a dumb question. If I don't know, I know enough people, Scott, quite a few of my community partners, friends, and veterans, that we will powwow it out. I will reach out to all of them, and we will run it to ground until we find an answer, whether it be yes or no. We will find a solution or tell you there's nothing we can do, because we're not going to blow smoke. But whatever the solution is, call us. Whatever the issue is, it doesn't matter what it is. If you call us and ask us we will look at it, and we will do our best we can to help you find the answers.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank all of you for taking a little time and watching the Battlefront to Homefront podcast right here from the Sober Life Studios. Again, if you would like to get more information about what's going on with Mission United, unitedwaybroward.org/Mission United. It's right there on your screen. All your contact information, you'll find it on the website. Any help you need. But reach out and ask. The worst thing you could do is know there's something or a problem, and you sit on it and you don't ask for help. That's the worst thing you could possibly do. There's always something that can be done, I promise you. All right. For Sean McPhee, I'm Scott Jones. Thank you very much for joining us. Everyone, please do 2 nice things for yourself and 1 nice thing for somebody else each day, and you'll have good days. Bye-bye now.